child's white sock story. Another personal coincidence story for you, dear lovely reader. I'm trying to do these stories justice, but they are so personal to me. I realise that not everyone is going to be able to resonate with my words, and that is stay in touch with your inner being. Play with your subconscious in your sleep and see what shows up. Dreams are soon forgotten once you start processing your waking reality and easily let go of by your waking mind. This story comes from a time in my life where there was a regular amount of stress. Not a vast amount of stress. I was a single parent of a teenage boy. I had a lovely, busy, challenging life. And part of that involved studying for a degree and working part-time jobs which allowed room for my studies. One of these jobs was selling things on eBay, and this was before Amazon blew up. I used to absolutely love receiving a notification on my email letting me know when I'd sold something. You know, that punch the air feeling, cause for celebration, money coming in. I loved it. Making money without leaving the house. I sold books, clothes, toys, DVDs, makeup and anything I felt people. I didn't have access to any computer programs which could tell me what the best things would be to sell, to whom. I had no access to data analysis to help me optimise profits or any other data comparisons which frankly, if I had access to, I probably wouldn't have known what to do with anyway. I was guessing and it was hit and miss profit-wise. I enjoyed it and it didn't feel like work and I was happy to do it after my day job, often working until midnight during weekends and holidays. It was fun, it kept me busy and made some money that I knew. One day, one of my oldest friends came round and mentioned that she'd cleared her loft out and she had loads of stuff for the charity shop. Naturally, I offered to sell it for on eBay. As an expert level seller, I knew I could sell her stuff in half the time it would take her to figure out how to even list one or two items. As with everything else, the more you do something, the more efficient you become. My friend brought round some bags of clothes for me to... I put the bags in my living room. That night I went to sleep and I had one of those dreams that I wasn't sure was a dream. I had one of those experiences where you feel as if you're awake and there, having a real conversation with a person in your dream. That is what happened to me. I dreamt that I was in a house, in a room, with a table, and a man was sitting at the table in a very relaxed, casual manner. I do believe now that this man is my spirit guide. I had no idea who he was at the time. I felt as though I knew him, but I didn't really know him. It felt like I was meeting an old friend. He had a soft smile as though he'd been here before, and I was old hat. I felt almost indignant, like, what? With an attitude as though I knew everything. What did he want from me? I felt like a teenager being held to account by someone who clearly did know better than me, and I had a feeling as if I didn't want to be told. I felt as though I'd been called in front of an employer when I hadn't done anything wrong. A weird feeling that is difficult to describe because he didn't feel like a tough boss or an authority figure that I wouldn't have felt as if I had a right to say what to, but he did have a sense of knowing more than I did. Not in terms of information, but in terms of a bigger picture. I felt he had more of a picture than I had. I don't know how I knew that. I knew that we had a relationship, I knew that I knew him, but my logical mind knew that I had no idea who he was. He gestured towards the door, an open doorway that didn't have a door in the door frame. Through the doorway, and I could see things flying about in a room the other side of the doorway. I walked towards the doorway, almost as if I was directed by this being. I sort of knew that I had to walk into the room, which I did. The room was full of busters flying around me. They flew all around the room, and I stood in the middle of the room, nonplussed, mystified, having no idea what I was doing there. There was another exit doorway from the room. I knew that I had to walk through the next doorway into another room, and in this room there were also loads of things flying about, and at first I couldn't tell what they were till one flew past my face. It was a child's sock. A whole room full of little white socks flying about, just like butterflies in the first room. It didn't even make sense at the time. You know how sometimes you can find yourself doing random things like towing a giraffe behind your elephant who's riding roller skates and it doesn't seem out of place or weird at the time? Well, this wasn't that. This was a feeling, being aware that something out of the ordinary was happening. I had no explanation for it. The next day, I woke up feeling as if I had a strange experience in my sleep. I started working straight away, firing up the computer and logging into eBay, prepping my friend's clothes ready for sale. This involved using a clothes hanger to hang the clothes up on a dado rail in order to take photos. I hung up a shirt, took some pictures, removed the shirt and hung the hanger back on the dado rail while I put the shirt in the done pile and sorted through for the next item to photograph. As I turned away from the hanger, it fell off the dado rail and dropped behind the radiator. I couldn't fit my hand behind the radiator to grab the hanger. I used another hanger to reach down and pull the first hanger out. As I pulled, I heard a clink as I jagged on something plastic behind the radiator. As I pulled the hanger out, I noticed it had something attached to it, a piece of white material. I pulled on the material and freed it from the hanger. It was a little white sock, a child-sized sock. I took the hanger and felt behind the radiator again. having a rummage of the hanger to see what had made the clunking noise. A cube had dropped out the bottom of the radiator. A plastic cube, a child's toy. I picked it up and looked at it. It had a picture moulded into the plastic. It was a picture of a butterfly. I had a surreal moment, knowing that my dream had been broken, as the phrase goes. You know when someone says something that reminds you of a dream you had, you say, broke my dream. The dream from the previous night came flooding back to me, the butterflies and the little white socks. I was literally standing in my living room, holding a child-sized white sock and looking at a butterfly picture on the side of the child's toy cube. I couldn't believe it. What was that? I had no idea the sock was behind the radiator. It wasn't my son's sock. We'd only moved into that flat when my son was around 12. We didn't have any young children's toys or child-sized socks. It did feel as though I was having a strange, unexplained, surreal experience. And as strange as that felt, it wasn't the end of the story, dear reader. A few months later, I was browsing on eBay through the psychic readings, tarot cards, all things weird and wonderful, and I came across a person who was offering psychic art for a small fee. The idea being that an artist links psychically with your spirit guide, draws them, and sends you the picture. For the amount I was paying, I wasn't expecting too much, which of course is not the right attitude, but I was still thinking along the lines of you get what you pay. However, I was interested enough to bid on the item, and I was pleased when I heard that I'd won it, as the marketing on eBay does like to remind you aren't just buying products, you are winning at auction. Go you. It is all part of the appeal, and I was feeling the appeal of having someone send me some art who only knows what. When the picture arrived, all wrapped nicely in a special circular cardboard art container, I was surprised at the amount of effort that had clearly been put into making sure the picture arrived in one piece. When I opened the parcel, I could see the image of the man in my dream looking back at me. The wry smile, the floppy brown curly hair. It was the most bizarre feeling. Apart from anything else, I was not expecting my spirit guide to look like a humble, barely conspicuous curly-haired young man. It was the image of the guy I had seen in my dream. If not an exact image, a pretty good likeness. Another story for you, dear lovely reader. Out-of-body, travelling flatmate story. Another personal story, dear reader. A little experience which I'm having trouble finding a category for, so I will share it and let you decide where it belongs. Travel back with me to 1988, to my experience of sharing a house with a couple of housemates in Shoeburyness. I shared a house with a woman I'd been at school with. I will call her Lisa, since I haven't asked her permission to either share the story or use her name. Lisa and I rented a house, a ridiculously cheap house. It was a 3-bedroom house for the price of a 2-bedroom. The reason for that was mainly because the 3rd bedroom was off the 2nd bedroom. Like an ensuite with no bathroom in it. Whoever was in room 3 had to walk through room 2 to get down the stairs. Whoever was in room 2 had to put up with room 3 people walking through their bedroom. But we were young, we just didn't care. We all agreed to take turns in the shared accommodation bit, and every 3 months we would all change bedrooms. It was fun. We were carefree and fun-loving, no one cared. One Sunday morning, I was lying in bed with my boyfriend in room 2. Lisa came out of room 3 wearing a polo neck jumper and her knickers, black polo neck jumper. She walked out of her room, sat on the edge of my bed. I looked at her, she looked at me. Neither of us spoke, but it must be because my boyfriend was asleep and she didn't want to wake him. Lisa got up off my bed and walked out of the bedroom, walked down the stairs. As I was lying there, I was thinking it was a bit strange that she hadn't spoken. I woke my boyfriend up and told him, as you do, that Lisa had done something strange. It really wasn't like her not to sleep. The door to bedroom 3 opened again. Lisa walked out of the bedroom wearing a black polo neck jumper and knickers. I said to her, "What are you doing? Did you just come back upstairs?" My brain couldn't compute how she was coming out of the room again. But maybe she'd walked past me and I didn't notice, but no. She had no idea what I was talking about. She hadn't come out of the room the first time, and I had no explanation for what happened.